Welcome to Negotiation with Alice, your negotiation podcast. Everything that you do where you need to get on the same page with someone else is a negotiation. So whether you have to negotiate a contract with someone, or you simply need your boss to sign off on that program that you'd like to implement, or you want to figure out how to rebalance the chore structure in your home, or talk about what vacation you want to go on. All of these things are negotiations. So in my podcast, we go over both personal and professional conversations, which all are considered negotiation, and I will give you tips on how to come out ahead. Welcome to the show. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Negotiation with Alice. Today, I've got Matthew Stafford here with us today. I'm very happy to have you here, Matthew.
Thanks for having me.
Sure, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to my listeners and let them know a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so we use data and analytics to analyze websites and improve the UX UI so that they convert higher. And essentially, I think that your website is a negotiating tool with the people that you want to do business with. And so it needs to be an expert at getting your message across in a simple and in a simple, usable way.
And who typically do you work with?
We typically work with people who use their websites to convert a prospect in either a physical product sale or to enter their information in order to book a call or generate leads.
Awesome. And so today I'd love to talk a little bit about how you employ negotiation skills in the work that you do.
Well, I really, in all reality, I think everything that we do is negotiating. We're always either trying to negotiate how we're going to get the best ROI for them based off of what we're doing, or how we're going to get them the best ROI with their client so that that client feels like they are listened to and seen. And really, it's a paradigm shift that I talk to people about their websites. Most people think oh, we just have to show them everything that we do or everything that we have and let them find it. Well, the problem with that is then you become a salesperson rather than a problem solver. And when you switch the paradigm to how do I make it easy for them to find what they're looking for, it's totally different than how do I sell them a bunch of stuff. And the person feels different and they actually have a much better experience and the conversions go up.
That's awesome. So there's a lot to unpack here. So let me kind of start in the very beginning. So one of the things that I love what you talked about is the ROI. And so in order to determine that, one of the things that I always tell people that they have to do when they're negotiating is to prepare. And so it sounds like in order to tell them what the ROI is, you have to do a significant amount of data deep dive to understand conversion rates and all that, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that that's true in any negotiation. If you go in there not being armed for what the potential obstacles are or the problems that you're actually trying to solve, you end up coming across as the slimy salesperson rather than someone who's actually trying to make sure that that person gets the best result.
Now, talk to me a little bit about how do you determine what the ROI is coming off of a website, especially when it's previous ROI versus after working with you?
Yeah, we're very data analytics heavy. And so what we do is we typically have an engagement with them to start with to get all their data accurate. And then once it's accurate, we can use that to see exactly where people are falling off and what that's going to hopefully yield on further down the funnel. And through that process, then that's how we determine whether it makes sense for them or not.
Okay, so it sounds like you are going over the customer journey. What in marketing we call the customer journey,
Yeah.
and where do they fall off in that customer journey, and then trying to fix those broken links so that they continue down the funnel all the way to a close. Is that right?
Yeah, what's the ideal action that you want them to take, and then what's preventing them from getting to that point, and fixing those hiccups or speed bumps so that more people make it to that point. Yes, 100%.
Awesome. And so when you're talking to people, I know that a lot of times entrepreneurs struggle with closing a sale. So is it for you a matter of showing up with the appropriate data and then showing them, what it can do afterwards, or something else that you do in your negotiations in order to be able to close that customer?
No, I think that's exactly accurate because the people that we can't help, we're just as honest with them and tell them that we don't think that it's a good fit. And the funny thing is, those still yield business typically within 60 to 90 days too, because someone who was happy to give you money and you told them no, your money would be better spent somewhere else, has become now someone that refers us because they know, like, and trust us just from the simple standpoint of we didn't take their money to take their money. We actually provided value and told them what would be a better use at this point. And so I think the best negotiation tactic in every situation is tactful, radical honesty. And I mean, you can tell them things that they don't want to hear, but if you do it from a place of giving them honest feedback, most business owners will respect that.
That's really wonderful. I know exactly what you're talking about. People who say, why don't you try this? Don't spend money on us, but go do this other thing because you are not quite at a level where you need to pay us this larger sum of money, but you still need to work on these more like smaller things, right, in order to gain traction. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yep. 100%.
So, talk to me a little bit about. So, let's say you're talking to a potential client. Are these people who have found you, so they're really warm leads? And if you do have cold leads, what negotiation tactics are you employing to get a cold lead to become warmer?
Yeah, so we don't do any paid media at all. Everything is all the leads that come to us are warm. They've heard me speak someplace or it's been a introduction. So that does change the metrics for us. Uh, and yeah, I feel like we're very fortunate in that respect that we don't have to run cold media. So for me, uh, those initial calls, I get to go into them with uh, open-minded to just discover and provide value. And a lot of times we'll give them, actionable advice that they can literally, whether they do business with us or not, they can go and change something and it's going to give them an ROI. And we've done that several times too, where the initial sticker price was a little more than they wanted, but they went and did a few of the things that we told them, and they saw immediate results, and so they're like, yeah, we would love to uh, do the full engagement.
No, I love to hear about that because one of the most important things when people are doing a sales, and I like to call it a sales negotiation because that's what it is to show up not with an agenda, not with a script, not with a list of questions, but like you said, just curiosity, right?
Yeah.
Showing up with curiosity to say, what are your needs? And what are your pain points? And what's happening because of that?
Yeah, every potential client is contextual. They have a different demographic that they serve. They have different teams, that they use. They have different employees. All of that stuff matters because when you're trying to engage with someone, you don't just have to make the sale. You have to also provide the service that goes along after that. And so, understanding the cadence that they work at, what their best form of communication is, all of those things, whether they can, how much they can scale their business before they run into other constraints. And by asking all of those questions, they know that you've already been down the journey. It's not just a matter of closing the sale, but like you're looking for potential issues before they even come up, and that adds a lot of comfort to the customer when they're going through that process with you.
Absolutely. And the other thing that I notice that people do is they frequently, like when someone is talking, they're dropping lots of information like breadcrumbs, right? Like little clues and things like that. And one of the obvious ones would be someone who shows up at a meeting, or let's just coffee date, right? And they show up and they're like, oh, sorry, I'm late. My kid was sick, and so X, Y, and Z. Well, they already dropped information. They have a kid. So there's already like information you can dive deeper on to say, oh, what happened? How old is your child? Where do they go to school? And so I'm curious in terms of your closing of your sales, right? And you're talking to people and you're asking them questions and they're talking about things. I'd love for you to express sort of what it's like picking up on all those breadcrumbs when people are dropping information, to be able to dig deeper and asking more about that, as opposed to leaving the breadcrumbs, ignoring them, not noticing that people are dropping bits of information.
Yeah, my belief is that people do business with other people, and that they don't have business problems, that they have people problems. And so the fact that, our greatest human need is to be seen, heard, and accepted. And so when they do drop those and you bring those back up in the conversation, they feel heard. And that alone, I guarantee, is, been responsible for a lot of our sales. And it's also, when you can point out that these other things that are a distraction to the business are actually the reason why they have the business, and you understand that. And our job is to make your business run smoother so that you do have the time to go do that instead of chasing fires. Those conversations are a lot more impactful than us just talking about the numbers that we're going to achieve.
Yes, absolutely. Because people are looking for connection, human connection, right?
Yeah.
And all sales are emotional to some level, right? When we say emotional, we're not necessarily talking about high emotion, upset, or anything like that, but even just feeling like, oh, I'm relating to this person. This person gets me. This person understands who I am, right?
Yeah.
So it is a good emotion. And when people,
I think more than 95% of sales are emotionally driven and then justified with logic.
yes, absolutely, right? And so to be able to emotionally connect with people
Yeah.
is really important as part of the
Yep. And
negotiation,
that
right?
needs to be done through listening. If you're not listening to them, you're just trying to sell yourself. They're not going to feel uh, like you value them enough that it's going to be a fruitful engagement for them.
Absolutely. And I always tell people, if you're asking a lot of questions, or no, sorry, if you're talking a lot, you need to check yourself and you should be talking less.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they should talk twice as much, if not more.
Or listen twice as much.
Them talk twice as much, so you would be
Yes.
listening. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. Yes. Because you get a lot of information that way.
And they'll tell you what they're struggling with. My other belief is they wouldn't have reached out if they didn't have a problem. So what was the problem that finally got to the point where they thought, like, I'm going to actually see if this will help me?
Absolutely. Yep. And so can you give us, or my listeners, a tip on how exactly, I understand you're listening, right? But how can you make them feel like you've heard them? Like, what are some of the ways that you talk to people so that they feel heard and seen?
Yeah, so I think that listening is a skill, and anybody can be very good at it if they put some effort into it. And so I listen for identity statements. So when they say I am this or I am that, I will actually ask them since when or how far back before they decided that's what they wanted to do. Because if someone says, I'm an accountant, that's totally different than someone that says, I'm an entrepreneur. And so getting to the root of where that happened and when they identified as that thing will help create an emotional connection. And it happens in the subconscious, so people aren't even aware that's what you're doing, but that is what you're doing.
That's really brilliant. I love that. And can you tell us a little bit about how that conversation goes? So let's say I say I'm a mediator, and then you say, well, since when? And I tell you my story. Are you suggesting that that storytelling that I'm doing is what is building the connection between the two of us?
Yeah, 100% that's what's happening. So I went through a class to learn how to do hypnosis. And so the earlier that you can get them to tell you, the earlier in their life that you can get them to tell you a story, they basically insert you into that area and then feel like they've known you that long. And so by asking them, oh, they say, I'm an accountant. I'm like, oh, was your father an accountant? No, but he sent me to college and da da da. Oh, okay. So when you were in college is when you decided that you wanted to become an accountant. Well, no, actually. And then they'll tell you another story and you ask about that. And once they tell you that story, then you can move forward. But they feel like they've known you for much longer. And that helps speed up the relationship, which is really what you're trying to do to find out if it's a good fit.
I love that, Matthew. That is such a brilliant, way to connect with people. People always want to share their stories,
Yep.
right? And if you find someone who is interested in listening to your story, that's powerful.
Yeah, they feel seen, heard, and accepted, which is really what needs to happen for them to make the emotional decision to want to move forward.
Absolutely. Well, that was great. Do you have any last minute tips that you'd like to share with my listeners, Matthew?
It's something I learned from the guy who wrote Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss, and that's ask no questions because no is much safer for them than yes. So instead of could we get paid today, you could say, would it be unreasonable to think that you could send the check out by the end of the day? And they'd be like, no. And so it doesn't feel uh, confrontational, where the other way automatically just feels less. So the no questions really work very well to get almost immediate responses.
So basically, to create a safer emotional space.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I love the tips that you gave my listeners. I think those are brilliant. And if anyone wanted to work with you, Matthew, how can they reach you? Aside from having the show notes, what
Yeah.
is a good place for them to find you?
Yeah. Our website is Build, Grow, Scale, and my email is matt@buildgrowscale. So you're welcome to email me, and I'm happy to take a look at your website and see if we could help you out.
Awesome. Thank you, Matthew. All right, listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Negotiation with Alice. Until next time.